Today I'm going to do a follow-up on the awning repair that I did here a couple months back on my Jayco Pinnacle fifth wheel. I've got the Solera awning, and basically the vinyl material was starting to tear off the roller tube here about 2 or 3 feet into it. And so in that previous video I attempted to repair it and document using this HH66 vinyl cement. Now, I've never used this before, and so I promised I would come back and report how well it has held up since then. Speaking of which, if you didn't catch that original video, I'll put a card up above and a link in the description below for that awning repair. But basically, I've taken it out camping since then and deployed the awning several times. No issues whatsoever. It's held up just fine. I will say though that I didn't subject it to any extreme wind or anything, so far, like you might get at the beach or something like that. So I don't think it'd be fair for me to say, that it's definitely as strong or stronger than the original factory bond. But stay tuned, because in next week's video, I'm going to do an extreme test on that previous repair that I did to the point of failure to demonstrate, just how strong that bond is or is not. So definitely keep an eye out for next week's video. After I published that initial repair video, several of y'all commented that there's a recall on Solera awnings, and many of you have had at least a similar issue to what I showcased, and you were able to get your awning replaced through the recall. And so I reached out to Lippert, because Solera is an LCI company, and checked to see if my awning was part of that recall. And unfortunately it was not. Basically the recall, as I understand it, applies mostly to units made in 2022, the first half of 2022. And there's several different brands affected by it, and Jayco happens to be one of them. But basically my unit is a 2021. It was made kind of in the summer, the middle of the year in 2021. And so my awning is not part of that recall. But I do want to say a special thanks to everyone for pointing that recall out to me, because I had no idea about it, and the recall seemed to describe the exact issue that I was having on my awning. So thank you everybody for pointing that out. And basically a few days after I posted that video, Lippert reached out to me, and it was kind of one of those generic, canned responses of, hey, we're sorry for the inconvenience. Please reach out to our customer solutions team, or something along those lines. And so I went ahead and reached out to their team, and they asked for a description of the problem. So it was real convenient. I could just show them the video, the close-ups and everything that I had done previously. And then they asked for the build date of my unit, the purchase date, and an RPO number off of a sticker that's way up there on the awning material. And then a couple days later they said, okay, so your unit's not impacted by the recall. This is not something typically covered by warranty, because remember, I'm at about a year and a half out from the purchase date. But they said, as a courtesy, they would send me a replacement awning fabric. And so I was absolutely delighted to hear that. I mean, I think that just shows the type of company they are, above and beyond that they're willing to make an exception and send a customer a product, given that the symptoms that I was having are very similar, at least, to a previous recall. So I just want to say a huge shout out to Lippert. I'm very thankful that they agreed to send me a replacement awning. I did not tell them that I was going to do a follow-up video or anything like this. And in a day and age where sometimes getting service and parts for your RV under warranty, you're kind of having to haggle and go back and forth. You get the runaround sometimes with the RV manufacturers. To have a vendor or supplier just keep it straightforward and ask about the problem, and then get the information they need, and then agree to send you a replacement part. I mean, I think that is absolutely outstanding, and really a model for other RV vendors and RV manufacturers to follow. And so just a few days later, I got this package here, and they've sent me a full replacement awning here for my main awning here. And so in today's video, I'm going to let you watch in as I replace it. I've never done this before, and basically I'm going to use the Lippert Technical Institute, the official replacement method. There's different ways to replace an awning like this, but I'm going to use their official method and let you watch in and try to give you some close-up views. Now, I'll put a link in the description below to the official awning replacement video from the Lippert Technical Institute, but you can see here in the instructions they list out the tools that you need. It's pretty straightforward. You just need a drill. I've got a number 2 square drive bit, some tie wraps, and then I've got 2 A-frame ladders. These are 8 foot tall, and a lot of that is going to have to do with how large your awning is and how high up it is. I mean, there's different methods to replacing the awning fabric, and like I said, I'm going to follow the official Lippert method, which you'll see here they suggest 1 to 3 people depending on the task, and really you're going to need 3 people. So I've enlisted the help of 2 others because you almost need 1 person on one end of the awning, another person on the other end of the awning, and then a 3rd person on the ground to kind of receive the fabric as it comes off, especially when you're dealing with such a large, bulky awning. And then here are the actual instructions that they provide. You can see it's split up into the removal and installation. So feel free to pause if you need to do so. But I'm going to try to give you the highlights of what it's like replacing the awning, by yourself apart from the dealer. And then stay tuned for next week's video because I'm going to do a torture test. That's right, I'm going to do a torture test on the old awning material, the section that I repaired over here, with the HH66 vinyl cement. But I'm also going to do that same torture test on the factory edge, the part that has not failed on my old awning, because I noticed that the replacement awning that they sent me here, the way that it's attached to the leader strip is different than the way this awning up here is attached to the leader strip. So either they have changed their manufacturing process, or my awning was perhaps an outlier and just didn't get manufactured and attached properly. So definitely keep an eye out for next week's video where I'll publish that torture test. And I don't know about you, but I'm really curious to see just how well that repaired section with the HH66 cement will hold up under torture. All right, first up, we're going to extend the awning. Lippert tells us to do it about 1 foot, so I'm just got the BM Pro app here, and we'll go ahead and extend it out about 1 foot right there. Then next up, I'm going to loosen this set screw that's on the track on both sides, and we're going to, of course, reuse this at the end there. We've got this LED light bar that's at the top of the awning, and you can see it's got this black and red wire for the 12-volt power. And I thought surely there would be a quick disconnect on that cable somewhere hidden behind the little black trim pieces, but there is not. This is a solid continuous cable. So somewhere inside here where this sealant is where it detaches. So we certainly could undo this sealant here and then find where it's connected and pull it out there. But I'm just gonna make a cut in the wire and then come back later and solder it back together and put heat shrink tubing over it, and it'll be waterproof. That's what I'm gonna do, but again, another option would be to break down this sealant here and find where it connects and disconnect it there. But this light strip does have to come off because we've got to reuse it on the new awning. All right, so I made my cut on the cable there, the power for the LED, and now I'm gonna slide this out. This is going pretty smooth, pretty easy. And then of course we'll reuse this on the new one. Okay, so I've got the awning retracted back to about 1 foot out, and then we're gonna tie wrap around this little rod here that goes through the awning and go around the arms so that those gas props, once we get all this out, it doesn't release all the pressure and pop one of us in the face. Here's a close-up look of what that looks like. So I've got the tie wraps there just holding so that once we get all this out, this doesn't want to pop out. Okay, so now I'm going to loosen up this screw right here, and basically that's holding the awning roller tube onto this little pin here, this rod, and I'm noticing right away that this screw is not tightened all the way down. I remember in the Lippert video it said it was about an 1/8 inch proud, so I'm going to remember that when I tighten it back later once it's reassembled here. Slight problem, the screw there that was holding it onto the rod sheared off. There was a ton of oxidation on that screw, and so what I should have done is unloosened it by hand, and that would give me a better feel so I don't shear it off. So I'm gonna have to try to take this screw removal tool and see if I can get in there and get that screw out of there. So we finally got the screw out that had sheared off, and really my advice would be, if you're doing this, go ahead and get some WD-40 and spray it in there first before you try to loosen anything so that that screw won't shear off like it did, because that was a real pain to get out of there. All right, so this time I'm gonna spray some WD-40, get it all up in there to make sure that that screw doesn't shear like the other side did. And I'm going to do it by hand too. Much better, yeah. So basically, that's the key. When you do this, don't use the drill to get that one side, because that was just too much force to get it loose. All right, and there we go. So I'm going to pull mine out first. Okay. And then you're going to get yours out on your end. Mine's out. Got it? Okay, so I'm going to start sliding it. So we got the awning out. Now we got to take off one of these caps on the end so that we can then slide the old awning material out of here. And so I'm going to loosen these up, and I'm going to start with this hand screwdriver instead of using the power drill, because after that last one, I just don't want any of these screws, if they're kind of seized up in there, to shear off again. Next up, we're going to unroll the old awning so we can get to the set screws that are holding it, the little cords into the tubes, so that then we can slide that one out. I'm going to real quick spray down the inside of the channel with this silicone. That was one of the tips in the LCI video, and that way it'll be a little bit easier to go in there. All right, so we got the new one installed, and I just wanted to point out, you know, we're lining up with those screws. And then something that I noticed is the way this is bonded to this leader strip, it was kind of over bonded in some places where we had to peel it back in order for it to clear the channel. And that's probably just, you know, as it's being bonded and welded to that little strip, it got a little bit over, so I just had to peel it back a little bit. But now I'm going to go ahead and put those set screws back in, and we'll basically reverse the process. Next up, we're going to put this cap back on here, line everything up, and then get it ready with the screws and everything. So we got it all inserted and secure, and so you can see kind of close up, we've got the flap here, and this is the outer part that's going to show on the outside. And so next up, we're going to actually roll it back up so that we can get it ready to go back on the RV. I just wanted to call attention to how it's secured to this leader strip. So my old awning, the PVC or the vinyl weld, it only had about an 1/8 inch strip going along here. Whereas notice this one is welded almost the full width of this leader strip. So that's kind of interesting. Either, you know, mine was an outlier the way it was manufactured, or they've changed their manufacturing, but this seems a lot more substantial in terms of holding up and not tearing off like mine did. All right, so you can see we got it all rolled up. It was pretty challenging, actually. Definitely, I think, a 3-person job. We didn't get it quite as tight as I would have liked to, but we'll, you know, of course, retract and extend it to get rid of that slack there. But basically, you can see we're right where we left off when we pulled it out. We've got our cord right here ready to receive into the strip on the RV, the channel on the RV. And so again, we're just going to reverse it and do the same thing, get it up there. All right, so I'm just about finished. I got it all put back together, but I wanted to show you what I ended up settling on for the wiring on that LED strip there up in the awning. So I'm gonna extend it out, which I did several times, by the way, and it is really nice and straight and square on the roller tube, no wrinkles or anything like that. But check out what I did up here. You can see, instead of using heat shrink and soldering them together, I just ended up using these kind of blade quick splices here. And that way, if I ever need to undo this connection in the future, I've got something provisioned. And these are those marine grades, so I mean, it'll be fine here out in the elements. And so really all I've left is to cover that up with the little black trim pieces there. But let's go ahead and check and make sure that the light still works. And see here, so awning number 2, yep, there we go. I've got my awning 2 and 1 put together, so we're in business. So basically that's everything. I just got to cover up those trim pieces and then the awning replacement is complete. All right, we're all put back together. Everything's nice and tight, nice and straight. And I just wanted to recap and let you know what I learned after doing this the first time myself. And the first thing is, don't even bother using a powered screwdriver. You know, all you need is a hand screwdriver like this. In my case, if you caught one of the screws up on the roller tube that kind of holds that onto the pin had kind of seized up. I guess there's some oxidation, some rust in there. And so, you know, I kind of made a rookie mistake, and the power of that screwdriver going in there sheared off the screw. And I probably spent another 30 minutes then, you know, drilling it out and getting it prepped so that I could continue. So don't make that mistake. Really all you need is a hand screwdriver like this one here. It works perfectly fine for all the screws and just lets you get a better idea if there's any screws that are seized up to kind of go easy on them. Of course, spray WD-40 on those in the roller tube. That seemed to really help, especially on the second one there. And you know, really the other thing I learned is it is, when you're doing a big one like this one, a 21 footer, it really does help to have 3 people involved, and you really do need 2 ladders, I think. I mean, there are different ways to do an awning replacement if you look on YouTube, but you know, I took the Lippert official method there, and it really did help having third person, especially if you've never done this before. So highly recommend that, having 2 ladders. And that really seemed to make things go a lot smoother, because it is just a lot of weight and bulk, you know, when you're up there and you're trying to slide it in without tearing and everything. So definitely recommend having that third person. And let's go ahead and roll it back in, and I'm just going to show you how nice and tight everything turned out. I'm really pleased. I mean, even before, the awning always kind of tilted to one side a little bit when I rolled it in, but now it is just perfectly straight and really nice and square. So I'm really pleased with how all that turned out. And then I'm going to show you one other little detail up top here with the wire on that little LED strip. So let me climb up this ladder and see if I can give you a close-up view here. But on the little bit of wire at the top here that's exposed, that connects to that LED strip, you know, it's just bare exposed wire with the insulation around it, and I just didn't like that, so I went around that with some electrical tape twice all the way on that exposed part, especially with the sharp edge of the kind of the frame, the metal here, with it resting on top. So definitely recommend doing something like that just to prolong the life of that wire there. But I mean, check out just how nice and straight that is on the roller tube. Looks really great. There's no wrinkles. You look all the way down. Really pleased with how it turned out. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, unrolling it and rolling it back once you got it mounted up there several times, pulling it tight, and that way everything ends up nice and tight. But really pleased with this replacement awning, and just really grateful to Lippert for sending it out to me. So a special thanks again to Lippert, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button, because next week I plan to publish a torture test on my old awning that we took off today, and I'm planning to, you know, put it to the extreme and find out just how strong that factory vinyl weld is that attaches it to the leader strip. But then more importantly, I want to know how strong that repaired section is that I did a couple months back with that HH66 cement. And so I'm really curious to see how that section in particular will hold up. So definitely keep an eye out for that video, as I think you'll find it really interesting. Well, as always, thanks for watching.